Welcome back to another Fabazine, and this is the Christmas one, and this I think is the star of the show for the Christmas ones, which are super cute. It is our fabric Christmas crackers. So I am going to show you how to put these together. This one still needs to be tied off, but we'll show you how to do all of that in just a second. So out of the fabric panel, you'll cut your 2 bits of fabric, and you'll also have in the pack lots and lots of these strips of mylar. So there's 6 crackers, so you'll get 2 for each cracker in the smaller strips, and that's for the handles, and then 2 for each cracker of the larger strips, and they're for the body of the cracker. So we'll put those to one side for the minute. Now to start off, all I've done is press a 1/4 inch seam on the top and the bottom of both of those panels. Once that's done, you're going to do one more bit of pressing before we start to sew, and that is to press it in half. So fold it in half that way and just put a nice crease along the top there. This is only for guidance for later when we're putting it together, but I would recommend doing it because it does make your life that little bit easier. So once both of those have been pressed in, then I'm going to open it out, put it right sides together, and then sew all the way along that edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you're going to do exactly the same on both pieces. So I will go ahead, take that to the machine, do that, and then be right back with you when we start assembly. I've stitched both of these, and the next step is to start turning them right side out. But one thing before I do that, just wanted to point out at either end I've done a little kind of reverse stitch on there, just because we're going to be manipulating this, so it's a good idea to do that. And also, although I pressed that seam down, I have flattened it when it's come to stitching it on either end. Just that means that when you turn them right side out and you can tuck those under, you'll just get a much neater finish. So a couple of things that I needed to point out there. So I've got both of these stitched and they are ready to go, but before we can apply them to make the crackers, we need to make the insert, and this is when your plastic, your mylar, comes in. So there are 2 smaller bits. These will be the handles of the crackers. So these you need to fold around. Let's get some tape ready. So these need to be exactly the same size. So what I found the best way to do this is to put a little bit of tape on one end. It's white on. I'm just going to move that so you can see it against the darker background there. And flip it around to make a circle, and then line it up with about about 3/4 centimetre overlapping, and then just stick that in place. And you're going to make the other side exactly the same size, so we'll do the same again on this one. And stick it to the plastic first, flip it round, and then line it up and stick that down. So they should be, you can tell I've made a couple of these now because it's spot on. So the other bits, the larger bits, these need to actually slide inside each other. So one of them you are going to make, I should have cut my sellotape first, shouldn't I? So one of these you are going to make the same size as that, so overlapping by about that 3/4 of a centimetre, and just make sure you keep these nice and straight as well, because they need to obviously slide into one another. Let me just adjust that slightly. With it being plastic, that will just peel off, so you can jiggle and re-stick as many times as you need to with that. So I've got one the same size, and now I'm going to make one that just overlaps that little bit more. Not a huge amount, you want it literally just to slide inside the other one. You don't want it to be so slippy that your cracker just kind of pulls straight open. So if I overlap it by, say, that much, so I've got an extra, maybe not even 1/4 inch, maybe an extra 3/8 of an inch in there, and that means one should just about slide inside the other. I mean, I could even go a little bit less on that if I wanted to, but I think with the layers of fabric included in there as well, we should be all right. So that is our starting point. So now we're going to take our big long tubes and we're going to pop them not all the way right side out. You're just going to flip them halfway. So That's exactly what we're after there. But now once you've got them halfway, just make sure you kind of twist it so your seams line back up, because it's going to make your life a little bit easier when it comes to inserting the plastic bits. So that's about it. And that crease that you put in earlier should help you to find that nice even edge on the top. So now first of all we're going to put the handle in, because the handle's got to be up at this top end. So if you just push it and make it into almost like a little U shape like that, you need to pop the inside fabric in first, then create that U shape and start to slide it up the fabric. Now it can be a funny shape, it doesn't really matter, we just need to get it in there, and by pinching that in a little bit, that will help you to slide it up. Once you've got it about halfway, you'll be able to just squeeze the end like a piping bag. Let me just pull that down a bit. Squeeze the end like a piping bag, and you can see it kind of works its way all the way up to the end, and that little crease that we put in earlier, that's really going to help it to keep its shape. So we just again check that we're still lined up at the bottom here, and we are pretty good. So then we're going to put the next piece in. Now because this piece I've got here has no emblem on it, then that's our inside piece. If you've got the traditional kit with the poinsettia design on, both pieces of those are the same, so it doesn't matter which way around you do it. But with the modern kit, it's this piece here, the one with no emblem on, that's your inside one. So the inside one needs that smaller cracker ring. So we're going to do exactly the same thing with this. Grab hold of that inside one, squish it up a little bit and get it in, then slide it up. So I shall complete this for this cracker. I shall do it for the other side as well, and then I will come back to you to be able to stitch it up. So once you've put those in, actually, if you slide it up a bit further than you need, so it's right up, not overlapping that, but just so you can get back in, because you're actually going to need the space that you've created at this end to be able to sew it round on the sewing machine. So I'll get the other piece ready, and then I will join you in a second. Now both of those sections are in, we just need to close up the ends here. So we're going to fold them over, and I would start with the seams because that's going to be your bulkiest point. So start with the seams, have those both folded over and join them up so you get a nice neat finish on that. You just pop a pin in that one to hold it in place, and then the best thing to do is just work your way around, but instead of kind of following the curve, it'll always look like you've got more fabric on the inside than you have on the outside. If you actually pull them so they're really straight before you put your pins in, then that will kind of straighten everything out and compensate for what looks like a lot of fabric on the inside. So I'm going to pull them nice and straight, and then pin, and then pull nice and straight, and pin, and then one last time. You see all of that excess that we thought we had is all kind of taken up within the center there. So pin both of those, and then the next step is to take it to the sewing machine. This is the trickiest part of the cracker, and it's stitching this section in around. Now you can hand stitch it if you don't want to do it on the machine, but I'm going to give you a couple of tricks to be able to do it on the machine. So trick number one is just the same way as we did when we pulled the fabric straight to get it nice and even and spread out around that edge. You are just going to stitch short straight lines. So put your pins nice and far in, because if you've got the heads sticking right out here, they're liable to catch in the needle. So tip number one is put your pins all the way in. Tip number two is just focus on short straight lines, because that's why we've pushed this piece of mylar further up than we would initially need it. So we've got the access right into that edge to be able to stitch. And then as soon as I'm getting to a bit that starts to be a curve, I'm going to drop that needle, roll it round, pull it straight again, and then take out the next pin. And you're just going to do that all the way around. It can take 4, maybe 5 little sets of stitches to be able to do it, but it will make your life an awful lot easier. So we'll do the same again, roll it round, whip out the pin, create that nice little short straight line again, and off we go. And then one more time, pin out, roll it round, create that straight line. And that's my last one because I've got to just join it up with there. And then when I do join it up, I'm just going to do a little bit of a fix stitch there just to make sure that that's nice and tight. What I also tend to do is I always start my stitching at the back as well, just past that seam. So the first thing I do is get that bulky seam out of the way. Once that's done, it's not too bad at all. So I'm going to go ahead, finish the other one, trim these threads off, and I'll see you in 1 second. We are almost there. So both of its mylar in, everything's stitched up. It's now just assembling the crackers. So the first thing you need to do is push these pieces of mylar back down to the end, because on both of them we've slid them up so that we could sew these pieces down here more easily. So just push them with your fingers and then hold on to that end as if you're pulling the cracker, and then you can just slide them up, and then just a little bit of manipulation to make sure they're right up at that stitching. Now, if you want to, you can hand stitch around the edges of here to hold them in place. Personally, I don't think they need it, but if it makes you happy, then absolutely you can. So same with this one. I'm just holding that as if I was going to pull it, and then sliding it all of the way up to the end and just straightening out that seam. So we are good to go. Now, you will be provided, this is a piece of ribbon to simulate the snaps, but you are provided with 6 snaps within your kit. So you're going to thread that through to one end. It's just a bit, the red ribbon's a little bit clearer to see on the video. So, and then we're going to do the same through the other side. Actually, do you know what we probably can do? We can pop these together first, line those seam allowances up. So the same way as we added it into the fabric, I've just kind of squished it into a C shape or a U shape. Line those seams up, because that's what's going to give you the nice finish, and then pop them into place. So once you've got it like that, that's when you're going to thread your cracker snap down the middle, and should be able to fish it out from the other side. And then we're going to tie up one end, so make sure that's in the center. You've got some little thin white ribbon, and you need it to be nice and thin to get a nice good join on those cracker snaps, because obviously you want the handle to be able to hold that in place for you. So you're going to tie both ends with those, and we can add little bows onto those as well. There you go. And then the other side. But before you tie up the other side, this is the point at which you want to fill it. So you'll just hold your cracker snap out of the way, and then, I don't know if you can see in there, just add all of your prizes and jokes and hats or whatever you want to put in there into the center of there, and then tie off the same as you did on the other side. So let's do that one. Again, that nice thin little ribbon, which will mean you get a really good grip. And now you can see, because obviously this is a lot bigger than the cracker snaps, but you can see the contrast there, so you can see they're nicely held in place. So that is your reusable, paper-free Christmas cracker.